It's good to speak with you today, Ding. I'm looking forward to hearing your views today on disruption technology in supply chain and warehousing. My first question,
Okay.
my first question is, what disruptions are taking place with technology in supply chain and warehousing?
I think if we look at from a very huge big perspective on in the logistic and warehousing today, uh, a lot of people is focusing on automations. In fact, there's a lot of people contacting me and talking about automations in that take place in this industry. But what they actually means for automations is that should be split into two parts. The first part I call it the robotics and the automations. But another parts that seldom people look at it is called artificial intelligence. Although that they say they it's quite confusing for these two terms when they actually work together. From my own perspective, automations and artificial intelligence is two very different items that you put in the area that you then let them work together. The first part, automations. Automation means that you actually some of the routine works that your labels is doing, you actually try to automate it to save the label costs. But on artificial intelligence, this is not to replacing the labels. It's algorithms that you build with the understanding of the operation strategy that you're going to implement in the warehouse. So you actually program it to help the operation managers or the warehouse manager to make a quick decisions when they actually are running the operations. So that is where you actually when you reduce your labels already, but when you actually do artificial intelligence, it will actually make the increments on in terms of your saving or your productivity multiply many times. So that is the difference between automation and artificial intelligence. And this is the first things that I would say is that the first things that take place in the disruption technology that currently is impacting a lot in the logistic and warehousing. And another part is actually what we say is a big data. Big data, all of us knows that big data today is already in the industry. And in fact that we actually, since I think maybe 2 years ago, people are start collecting data, but a lot of times people sit on the data and do nothing with it. And personally, I believe that this is something that we should really leverage on it and use it properly, especially when artificial intelligence is there. So if you you can actually collect the data, because we are collecting the data, and you can actually build the artificial intelligence leverage on the big data that you have. Then your decisions will be pretty much that make very quick and respond to the markets in a very quick ways or to respond to the markets change, that which we actually in the past we are hardly doing. And this is all thanks to the another disruption technology that take place, where what I call it the Internet of Things. Because when you have Internet of Things where you actually link everything to the cloud system, so now everything is under one single roof. So in fact, all this disruption technology is linked to each other, and they are starting to come into disrupting the conventional way of doing the warehouse and logistic systems. So this is what I feel that the disruption technology is take place.
And what's the significance of these changes?
Sorry, when you make mean significance means that the impact of it to the market, right? Hello.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Okay, so when we say that the impact of it actually is the first thing is that if it depends on which regions that or which markets that you're looking at. For example, in Singapore, um, when this thing is impacting a lot of peoples, because today's in as place like Singapore and Japan's, this is quite significant, mainly due to the aging populations in the markets. And in fact, our humans today tends to be not willing to do the labels works too much anymore. And this is and in the past people thought that okay, when my labels don't want to do, I will try to find an automation ways to cover it. But when you actually replacing with the robots, you found that the cost impact of investing in the capex of the automations, it don't make sense in terms of the logistic. That's why actually when you actually have artificial intelligence to help it, then you actually will able to make every of your investment becomes sense. So the impact is quite severe. And in fact, it tries people, because you can see the warehouse today is that insert a lot of the warehouse, they start to reducing the labels independence. And we want our operations today to become human independent. Because in the old days, for example, just last week I visited to a warehouse in Eastern Malaysia, and I found that the warehouse operation is very human dependent, where they actually have a single guy that actually to remember where he puts all the SKUs, where he locate the products and things like that. But I asked the owners questions. If this guy comes and asks you that I want an increment for 20 or 30% of salary, will you want to give it? But you have no choice because you are dependent on him. So if you have all these system is in, you don't need to depend on him. So this is where the impact will coming in. A lot of the warehouse now is start to make the change. They may not need no need to go all the ways to become a fully automated warehouse, but I feel that all now the market is take place and a lot of semi-automated or the combinations of the certain of the artificial intelligence is built in to help the people to make a lot more faster, quick response, and a lot more make sense of doing things, a lot more productive ways of doing things is really take place in the market, and it has bring a lot of the impact in terms of economy.
So how should we face these disruptions? Is there any more you could say about how to face these challenges?
I think the first thing is we need to accept that this thing is definitely in the market already, and no ways we can avoid it. We need to embrace it. But one thing everyone should actually aware of it is that when we talk about automation, it doesn't mean that you need to go fully automated. For example, in a conventional warehouse, I have around 50,000, 10 or 20,000 pallets in a convention that take place in a very huge area. So now if I want to build using the space, I easily can increase the volume to double up, but I not necessarily to go fully automated. For example, when I retrieve the pallets, most of the retrieving of the biggest SKU, I will put it in survey, but you don't need to really make every single pieces, every single operations becomes really automated or make a lot of investment in terms of that. So perhaps it comes back to the old days, what we say is that 80-20 rules. We focus on the 80% of the activities that is going to happen, and which will only then the rest of 20% of the activities that you actually can keep it as what in the manual ways. So that will help you to reduce the investment of the capital investments that you need to put it in. So that's one way that we should actually think of it, rather than just do whatever we can to make it fully automated. So this is what I believe that take place in the market, and we should actually the ways that we should how we should react to it. And another thing is that we need to really look into the for example the big data and really utilize it, because I feel that a lot of people is working or sitting on a lot of data, but they actually are not using it in a smart way that can brings the impact to their own business in terms of business development. And if you really look into the data analysis and kind of things like that, then you will find that where actually is the lack of, and where actually you can complement, or you can find the partners that actually work together to actually complement each other during the peak seasons, and the low seasons, because that is not always a peak seasons for every product in the market. So if things like that can happen and can be synchronized, I think this is what all these systems can actually help us.
Thanks. And could you provide a brief background of yourself?
I used to be a R&D engineer that specialized a lot. My background is actually mechanical engineering. I used to be an R&D engineer. However, in around 12 or 13 years ago, by chances, the Swiss Log actually hired me from the R&D centers, and I joined them. That is where actually I start my career in the supply chain and logistics, warehousing, design, and consultations. So I built a lot of warehouse in the early days. I built a lot of warehouse in the, for example, Wired Nutrition's Hangzhou Cigarette Factory, Shanghai Cigarette Factory in China. But in 2010, where actually Singapore actually start to make a step where the government start to promote the automation and artificial intelligence in the markets. So that is one of my friends currently still working in Swisslog came to see me, says that Ding, now there's a chance in Singapore. Do you really want to come back rather than sit to develop the China market alone? So I actually pull myself back from there and sit in and develop the Singapore. Fortunately, I did a very, very huge project in Singapore for GLS, which is the logistic arm for NTUC FairPrice. We designed like I say just now, it's not a 100% fully automated warehouse, but it is a combination where actually, and that becomes a very huge warehouse, and start to implement also some other projects focusing things like the supply cold chains, the electronics, all those projects I start to do in Singapore, and I start to make myself understand better and better about this industry. Thanks a lot to all the friends that has been helping me all the ways.
For sharing today, Ding.